too.
Oh, okay.
Right here. At what age did you start playing?
I started playing a little too late, 7. I wish it was 5. I wish it was 5, because you really, really absorb. The brain does amazing things at that very young age. It might not be the official way you learn, but the submerging in it and hearing it, what children can learn. You know, I'm messing around with a couple of my grandkids now, and they're 4 and 2 and that kind of thing. They're loving it. I know they're learning. It's just I'm not talking to them about chords. Big deal, you know.
And did anyone in your family play, or are you like a prodigy?
No, my dad played by ear.
Oh, really?
And my mom played classical, and my sister was 10 years old and played classical.
So the whole family was...
The whole family played, and you know, I grew up in Brooklyn, and there was kind of pianos in people's homes in Brooklyn, at least where I lived on Flatbush, and I didn't have much alternative. And we had a little closet, and in that closet, that's where they kept the telephones then, instead of our pockets. At least they didn't bother you all day long. But anytime I wasn't practicing, when I was 8 or 9, I wanted to be playing with my friends outside. Anytime I didn't practice, my mom would go into the closet, making believe she's calling the piano teacher to cancel the lesson. That went on for 2 or 3 years until I sort of realized I loved it myself, really.
Second question is, why do you wear the
Band-Aids? I play too loud and I bang too much and I practice all day long and my fingers get sore.
Okay, so like
it's preventive medicine now. I used to do it after the fact. That's just silly, you know. So now I put it on before. It makes me sort of feel like I'm a boxer or something. Yes.
You mentioned a whole lot of classical and jazz musicians that you were influenced by. Do you ever perform their music?
I did in different parts of my life. Now I'll usually, as I mentioned, take some of their themes and do variations on. Maybe I'll do one later on Paganini or somebody. But I don't feel these parts of my life like playing complete pieces by my heroes, just because I'm hearing my own music. In fact, I started hearing my own music at 12, and my Juilliard teacher at the time, who happened to live next door to my house, so I didn't have to travel up to Manhattan, I'd go over to his house, and I started messing around and altering some Mozart, and he said I had delusions of grandeur. And he was right, but the point is, I knew I was headed for some other music, and then little by little I started playing jazz, and that's how it kind of unfolded. I felt weird at first because I was writing my own music at 14, and I remember playing at Town Hall, writing a song for my wife Susan. It was called Susan's Earrings, and it was an original piece. But somehow when I grew up in my, I guess, group of people, you were rewarded if you could imitate Dave Brubeck or Earl Garner or George Shearing. So they were wanting me to do sort of covers, you know, and I did it. And it was not till many years later that I was in Japan standing with Billy Corgan, and he said, you know, my dad, who played in clubs his whole life and played blues guitar and this and that, he said he told me when I was 17, never play anybody else's music. And I wish somebody had told me that, but my natural gut was to write my own music. Then I went on a circuitous route for many, many years where I just was imitating every style. It was great training, but I didn't feel connected. So I'm actually still finding my own music. I'm kind of a late bloomer that way. Yes?
We got 2 Brooklyn people here. Where in Brooklyn are you from?
Ocean Parkway.
I know.
Was my accent that specific that it was sort of Ocean Parkway? Where are you?
I was 7th Avenue and 13th Street for about 6 years.
Oh, cool. And you?
All over.
All over where?
Canarsie,
Canarsie.
Remsen, between D and Litmus, East 89th Street, Park Slope.
Park Slope?
6
My wife
years.
taught school there.
6 years in Park Slope, 6 years in Bay Ridge.
Bay Ridge. I went to Lafayette. I was born in Kings County.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I wasn't.
Okay.
I'm sorry to say I missed it.
I sort of miss New York and Brooklyn, and every time I go there, I'm a little disappointed. Each time I go there, it's crazier than ever, you know. I was riding these taxis. I did the Highline Festival for David a few months ago, which he chose 12 of his favorite artists, or 13 artists, and he had Secret Machines and Polyphonic Spree, and he had me come play some solo piano at a few shows, and I was in these taxis, it wasn't that I didn't understand what was being spoken by the taxi drivers. They were all on the cell phone for the whole ride, you know, and going at 3 miles an hour, you know, so it wasn't a very pleasant experience being back to what my home was. You know, it's just very different now, you know. I still love the energy, but it's just a little too whacked out now. You know? Yeah. Question? Yeah.
You've accomplished so much and created magic in so many different genres of music. Is there a particular thing in your heart of hearts and a goal that you haven't achieved yet, that if you had your druthers or something that there were no obstacles in your way, is there something that you wanted to do or something that you haven't attained yet?
Yeah, I have some pieces in my head that started blooming 10, 20, 30 years ago, different ones. One's connected like with a Broadway show, you know. The piece came to me walking through New York City about 15, 20 years ago. It was called The Good and Bad of the City, because I'd be on one street and it was glorious, and then the next street I thought I was going to be mugged, you know, and then all of a sudden I'm in front of the Plaza Hotel, and, you know, it kind of echoed my schizophrenic personality in a way, you know. So I heard this music, and I wanted to do that show, and so that might happen. And then there's some classical pieces in my head. It's not exactly classical pieces. I see, I was talking with my friend Lynn, I see this stage where I have a string quartet here, a rock band here, a jazz trio here, full orchestra here, a Latin band here, and I'm going in and out of the musics until we're all sort of kind of playing together. So I have stuff in my head, but I feel fulfilled because I'm composing all the time at home and writing and playing. So it's much more unusual when I come out and have people and play for, because I'm used to playing by myself in the middle of the night, and that's when my greatest joy occurs. But because it's the moment of creation. But it can happen in front of a live audience, but it's harder because all of a sudden now, you know, there's thoughts and judgment and evaluations coming from people's minds and my own, and the ego gets in the way, and it's not always as pure as when I'm just sitting in my house alone and just being in touch with perhaps the good spirits. You did a great job.
Thank you. I appreciate that.